you guys for joining us on Bro Plata. We have a very special guest with us, an Ohio MMA legend, an MMA legend in general. The one, the only Jessica Evil Eye is joining us. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you so
being
much.
with us.
Of course, thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely, we are happy to have you on. I've been trying to get more interviews on, and what better than somebody who is, especially in our neck of the woods, somebody who is revered in the MMA world, and especially somebody from our neck of the woods too, because Tim's from Tuscarawas County, I'm from Cleveland, so this is sort of a fun thing for us to have, is somebody that we both have seen a lot. I especially saw you at UFC 203 in Cleveland, at the first and only show in Cleveland, which they should have more. Dana, get your butt on that. But yes, thank you for being on, Jessica. It's awesome. And you grew up in Rootstown, Ohio, and Cuyahoga Falls area also. My first question to you is, what did you go to tech school for? I saw you went to tech school, and I went to tech school. I'd like to know.
I went for business management.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Very sweet.
Yeah. I matched my personality back when I was younger. Like, I liked being an individual. So, like, I always wanted to be, like, my own boss.
Believe me, that's why we have this podcast. We want to not have jobs anymore. So.
It's not going well so far, but I have a question. What's the bigger pride of Rootstown, Ohio? Is it Jessica I, or is it the Dusty Armadillo?
Oh man, so that's, I grew up here. Here's a good one for you. I grew up on State Route 44, about 10 houses down from the Dusty Armadillo. So I don't know. I was there first, so I mean, but
The place is an institution.
It's interesting. It used to be like a child dance club party back when I was in high school.
Now it's a giant old child dance club.
Yeah, it's a boot
It's
scoot,
like
like a stage boot scooting saloon.
Right.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Oh no, Tim, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. No, I'm done. Done. Go ahead, Ray.
I was gonna ask, at what age did you start doing martial arts?
I was actually 19 years old when I first found
Okay.
martial arts. I grew up at Rootstown playing, sports. I grew up, being a part of the farm life and just being, a Midwest, hard-nosed girl that, it was kind of like in my style already.
I like it.
Did you play soccer? Did I hear that right? Did you used to play soccer?
Yeah, that was my sport.
Well, you got the kicking down.
I definitely felt like it played a really good advantage for a really long time. So I love seeing other sports relate, other athletes relate to other sports, in MMA, right? Like you see really good wrestlers being, really good grapplers, or you see really good strikers were really good runners, in that way. Like they have a motor on them. So
Right. And I mean, in sports you wouldn't think would correlate, like baseball, like Steve Pitt baseball, and his hand-eye coordination is great.
You got it.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone who played sports at any kind of high level, the reason a lot of them could transition to MMA is because they already got the drive. They already know what it takes to. It's not the same sport, but they know how it is to compete at a high level. That's why you see a lot of people go from football or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
Well, oh no, go ahead, Tim. I already asked the question. I feel
okay. No, I was gonna ask. Since you're retired, which congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Great career. Great. It was really fun to watch you. Jessica I is always one of those people you see on her card. You're like, fuck yes, I'm going to get a fight. No matter what happens, I know I'm going to get a good fight. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
For as long as
that's something to be proud of. Being an
100%.
just as no one wants to go in there and just be a loser. At least if you're gonna lose, you got to be an entertaining loser, and if you're gonna win, you got to be an entertaining winner.
Right.
I mean, we could look at Connor's lost quite a few, and he's pretty entertaining still.
Right. I mean, look, I don't know, Clay Guida fought last weekend. Every time I see him on the card, I'm like, he might lose, but I don't care.
Yeah, watching them. I'm watching.
Yeah, it's glad. So what have you been doing since retirement?
Oh man. So, it's interesting. I went to school in September for real estate. One of my motivations is I moved back from Las Vegas in September to Cleveland. I have a rental property here that I was renting out. And I came back to go to real estate school, which I finished schooling up. Unfortunately, I failed on my first attempt on taking the test, but I feel like that's what everybody's from 90% of what I'm told is everyone fails. But I'm actually in the midst of retaking my tests, and really, I've just been like being present more in my life. Like, I work out when I want to work out. I'm being more present in like the people I love's life. I'm getting to travel. And I'm also just like getting to try new things, like I feel like some days I missed out on even certain hours of the day because I was either training or sleeping to get, into training. I fought for 15 years of my life and I'm 36. So it's like, I feel like I definitely feel like there's a whole world to live now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. I mean, if that long of your life, that big chunk of your life, you were training all the time. So now that you're not, it has to feel like it's just almost a whole new world where all these things that.
It is. I'm definitely. I'm working with a therapist. Just because it's kind of hard. And I think that, I love how Uriah Hall came out and like spoke about it and about. I think I even seen something recently about somebody coming through about how Tom Brady, needs to be seeking a therapist, like just the everyday routine, that I was in for so many years. And even when I wasn't in a fight camp, I knew there was a potential fight lined up within a couple months. But now to know that there's no potential fight, there's no injury, and like, it's like, if you have a little injury, you're like, all right, I'm out for this many days. Like, you'll start as a fighter calculating like when your next fight will be. And now there's just no more calculations because, to me, in my, humbled opinion, I have no desire to fight again. I fought at the highest level in the UFC. I don't want to do bare knuckle. Like, I have no desire. I feel like, even going into my Macy Barber fight, I was very prepared. I had a great camp. I was back with strong style. I was, I felt incredible. I felt fierce. And, when I got in there, I just couldn't pull the trigger anymore. And I feel like that's when I was like, maybe that young girl who was maybe full a little bit of more piss and vinegar who wanted to fight and be that Ohio girl proving myself. Like, I felt like I didn't have it the same, and it's not fair.
So what you're saying is slap fighting is totally out of the question. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they pay those guys like nothing. Like, it's
I saw
they're getting slapped, and I know they probably bet them having on sponsors and stuff. But my gosh, like, literally, I mean, again, when I was fighting for in the UFC and I was making fantastic money, I was making six figures, and it's like, if I'm not gonna go in and fight 5 minutes for 100,000, like, why would I go? Why would I take a slap across the face for even less amount of money? Like, it just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what's going on with Tim? Is it Tim Sylvia that's doing it? I'm like, what's going on with that guy's life? And he's like, I have to do something.
Is he?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's with like a lower level slap league that started up.
That's sad.
We were gonna do like live. We
too.
do live streams for like pay-per-views and sometimes fight nights. And I wanted to do some stuff for like slap fighting, but I watched like an episode and I went, I don't feel comfortable.
It was worse than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
Not even like it. It's like, at least put like a storyline behind it. Like make them like a little bit of actors. You know what I mean? In that way to like build it up. But like, I'm not into just seeing two people slap each other. It's just, again, like, if I see two people fighting, I'm like, I wonder if that guy knows how to fight or that guy knows how to fight. Like, we both know you each know how to slap somebody, right? Because that's what you're here to do.
Yeah.
He's got a strong pimp hand. That's about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
They need on there. That's who they need.
Exactly. Yeah. But like, I wanted to ask you a question. You started fighting basically in like sort of the early days of organized MMA here in Cleveland. You had NAFs and all that kind of stuff. And
it was the Wild West.
I was actually the Wild West.
It was nuts for a while there.
It was. was. We had the easiest rules and stuff in that way. We did.
Do you like seeing how Cleveland MMA, because now we have like Cage Thunder, we have a couple other organizations that come in and out of Cleveland. What's the best part about watching like the evolution of like Ohio MMA in general to you, since you started with like NAAFS and all those?
It was I really hope that these and we got to think COVID just hit. So a lot of these young amateur fighters were forced to go pro, in that way. So I think we're going to see a little bit of shift in maybe techniques, and like how skilled they were. Cause you got to think, when people like, myself and Stipe, both had multiple amateur fights before we decided to go pro, and you're seeing more pro fights put on, which is, very entertaining. But unfortunately, we need, like, NAFS was a feeder organization. You had Jason Dent, you had Jeff Cox, you had Forrest Petts, you had Dan Bobich. You had such big names on these cards, and they went either did something or they were still fighting locally because it was still such a big organization. That's the only thing I'm most worried about in this industry as MMA becomes more mainstream, is that the window for these young fighters to be able to get their foot in the door, or get through there, it's going to be much harder for them, than it was for, people like myself. I mean, number one, I was a female, coming into a new industry. But then, you think of guys like Stipe, he was the heavyweight knocking people out left and right in the area. In the area, it was like, hard not to notice them. Whereas again, we need these main organizations, that we can think of and that really build a name, like CFFC up in New York. Like, we need another NAFS that's locally driven, just locally driven, to build the name, because NAFS was just
agreed.
I think it's going to be Cage Thunder. They look like they're one that's doing it the hardest. Cage Thunder, they're doing it the right way. They said their first pro-am and they're going this way. I think it's going to be them. But, oh, shoot, what was I going to say, Ray? Did I forget something
I
already?
don't know, Tim.
Oh, no. I always forget.
I agree with you. A lot of strong style guys are fighting on that card, and it's, and I don't know if it's Scott Corbin.
It's Scott, yeah.
Yep.
Scott's been around the industry for a long time, and we need young fighters to know that they can rely on a guy like Scott to match a fight accordingly, right? Not only for Scott's self, Scott, that's a part of his paycheck. You know what I mean? Like, he puts on good fights that looks good for him. So, I love that Scott is here for these guys. They're, him and Nicole Long Nicole Long matchmaked, all my fights. So, and even into the early parts of my UFC career.
Yeah, Scott lives like half a mile from me, and I've known him for a long time. He's a great dude, and I know he really does try hard to take care of all those guys, and he does it. And plus, I was going to say thankless, but he does get paid. But him matching up amateurs has to be real hard, because like some guys like don't get a hold of you and they disappear. They don't
show up on weigh-in day. Yeah. One of the things that people don't know about Scott is originally Scott was it hook and shoot, right? He was originally back in Virginia, right? Was it in Virginia?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I knew he grew up in New Philly. I don't know. Maybe he I don't know.
He did a lot for women's MMA back in the years that, I remember I heard Scott Corbin's name years ago. So Scott's been, doing this as, something, for a long time.
And as somebody who's seen a lot of that as well, female MMA become more popular, obviously, we can go back to when Dana said he would never do it in the UFC and be one of... Well, yeah, but hey, that was back when like only Strikeforce was doing it. Strikeforce was the first place.
Well, you got to think before even Strikeforce, I think it was hook and shoot, right? And then, we had Bellator back when they were on MTV2, at the 115, and again Strikeforce, because, those were the only people doing somewhat, but they weren't like Dana was, no, for the longest time.
You were already pro before they started having women. Is that correct? Is that right?
Yeah, I was already pro. So when they started having women was shortly after I got released from Bellator, when they released all of us girls, when they closed down, when Bjorn Redney completely closed down the women's division. He closed down the 115, the 125 division.
So you were beating everybody's
All got
ass in Bellator too, weren't you? Like, if I remember
yeah,
correctly, you're beating everybody's ass.
yeah, I think back and I try not to like overanalyze my career, but at times I wish I could have got to spend more time in the Bellator stage building myself up before, I made that big jump to the UFC, because my very next fight, after, my Bellator fight was Sarah Kaufman, previous Strikeforce
Yeah.
champ, and, was a high level girl, but, all I could see, at that point was like, wow, I'm going to the UFC. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't really have you didn't have really much of a choice. If you could fight and you were a good female fighter and you were cute, the UFC wanted you,
Yeah.
because they wanted to feed you to Ronda.
Yeah.
They
that
did.
was a bit.
The plan. It was the plan.
Well, I was about to say that was the problem in the early days of female MMA in the UFC. Was basically it was the feeding session for Ronda. I mean, that's what it was.
There was no developing of young girls. There was no developing of styles. There was no developing, into that. And, let's still face it, probably most girls that got into MMA probably didn't even get into MMA until their 20s. You know what I mean? Unless you're Valentina Shevchenko and your mom was a world-class kickboxer, her whole life. Like most girls, like let's face it, most females, right? We're not talking about guys, most of them wrestle, but most females, let's talk about it. Bad childhoods, abusive adult relationships, or really they went to a defensive class and they're like, oh, I like punching people. So like there's not, they did developmental skills that came along, the way.
But it's definitely going to change, right? That's changing. That's not going to be the case anymore here pretty soon. And that's because of people like you. Do you feel pride in that? I mean, you have to.
I do. I was thinking about this the other day. Somebody goes, well, what other female has fought in the UFC that's came from Ohio? And I literally was like baffled. I'm like, there isn't any.
Kayla Harris. Oh, UFC? Oh, no.
No,
Kayla Harrison is from.
Kayla Harris. Yeah, but I said, what other girl made it to the UFC? Not that Kayla Harris is Olympian. We're not taking away from that, because the same other person could say, well, like, oh, well, who were the other girls, in judo that made it to the the Olympics in Ohio? But to be the first one, that made it from, the nitty gritty, I made it from the fight world. I made it to the UFC. I'm not a previous Olympian. Right. I'm just a Portage County hillbilly girl who had a rough childhood, who was ready to beat some ass. So you think about that. I hope that, me being back here in this time, and while I'm here these next couple of years, I can inspire girls to come down to Strong Style and try MMA classes, and maybe we'll see that next superstar, born and raised and go to the UFC, because I was born in Barberton, Ohio, and I retired my career being back here in Cleveland. So it's
That was one of my favorite parts about the UFC video games, is that if you make a creative player, you can make them from born in Barberton, Ohio.
Yeah, I love that, right? How cool. I mean, how cool is for every human being in Barberton, Ohio, who needs something, right? Like, we know how Barberton, if you're from Ohio, right? Like, to be able to look at that and go, I can come from Barberton, Ohio, or Alliance, or come from hard areas, and I can be somebody, that's, really my biggest message has always been, for people. And to me, that's cool. That's something we'll always relate to together.
Right. When I said Rootstown is Jessica I and the Dusty Armadillo, Barberton is Jessica I and fried chicken. I think it's what that is.
That's right.
It's just pretty damn good fried chicken. That's something you want to be up there with.
Yeah.
Are you going to be
hamburgers?
Oh, Hamburger Station. Don't get.
Do they even have them anymore? I don't even know if they have them anymore. Do they?
The last one I knew was in down like near Akron, or where the
like by that
Goodyear
lake
blimp was.
Apartment. Yeah.
It used to be my favorite thing after going to like the Funny Stop. I'd go get a big box of those and just like, because it's better than White Castle, so you don't feel like crap after.
Not wrong.
Sorry, You said you're back in Cleveland. Are you going to be coaching females now at Strong Style, and are you going to be a part of the staff there for the MMA
Um,
course?
we have been, me just being in the gym and being like present, is still something I'm adjusting to, and feeling like I'm not almost recommitting myself to another lifetime, because being a coach, it's just as much as the fighter,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to take that seriously. Strong Style's opening a new location, and once they move to the new location, I told my coach I would like to take a much bigger position in being able to coach, being able to personal train people again, like being able to be what originally I was whenever I first found, MMA, being a personal trainer, working in the gyms, and doing that.
Where I know they're in Valley View currently, because actually I work at a couple locations in pest control around that area. Uh,
Yeah.
where are they moving to, if you
Up
can
on
say?
Yeah, no, yeah, of course. It's actually, if you drive by, you can see like new, home of Strong Style. Are you familiar with Broadview Road up towards like Seven
Yeah,
Hills, like going up that way? So it used to be an
yeah,
old Bally's Fitness years ago. It was Bally's Fitness. It was FX Fitness. It was like a
yeah.
two-story place. Oh yeah, Marcus has completely regutted it, and we're almost there. Some of the crazy weather lately has kind of screwed up some of the construction in that way. But yeah, it's soon to be open, and it's gonna be beautiful, and it's gonna be, every MMA gym needs to have that like sanctuary for an MMA fighter to come find its journey. And Strong Style has always had that, but I definitely feel like it needs a facelift. Me and Stipe really used it up and wore those mats down. So the place is definitely served 15 years of very hard work from some, only us, local, we got guys down there that are on bare knuckle that are doing great. And, there's other young amateurs and young pros, and some pros that we've known for years that just never made it to that top level, but, made a very great career locally. I mean, you got guys like Cody Stevens, who was once in the big show and is still doing big things around here. So,
Yeah,
Is Jeff
that's
Hughes still fighting? I don't know. Is Jeff Hughes still fighting?
no, the Strong Style, but that really
Okay.
bad Abu Dhabi decision they did with him. I think it was, or was it Abu Dhabi whenever he
He fought that jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah.
fought somebody, and there was that one, but then well, yeah, no, it was, you're right. It was because it was a last minute replacement, because it
Right.
was supposed to be. Oh, I'm missing a name right now. Anyways, he is not. And you know what? I haven't seen it much since I've been back. I've seen like John Hawk. I mean, I've seen Stipe. Um,
And John Hawk, I haven't seen that dude fight. I mean, I used to see that guy fight like 10 years ago or more than 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
it's been all, well, he's been retired, and he's doing other things, and
Mm.
like think of guys like Brian Rogers, and
Yeah,
some
Brian
big
Rogers.
names that were in Bellator and stuff like
Yeah, I
that. So
remember. I mean, you fought on that card too, the IX Center card, right? Bellator.
yeah, we all did.
I
We all
didn't
did.
see you fight because I didn't know you were fighting. Because
Oh,
then
it's okay.
they made you fight after the main event, right?
Yeah, so
I
it's
left. I didn't know idea.
you know what is
You didn't
so
tell
crazy
anybody.
that they literally, what is crazy is they did that last minute because I sold so many tickets that they didn't want people to leave before that. So they actually put me before, was it Shinyan Yoki and
Eddie Alvarez.
Eddie Alvarez?
Yeah.
They put me after them, like they
Mhm.
instead of putting me before them so people wouldn't leave.
They
Yeah.
dark
But-
matched you. That's
No,
messed
yeah,
up.
'cause
That's
the TV was already done, right? 'Cause it was
Yeah.
yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea.
You
I left. I didn't know.
back and watch it. I think when they had like didn't they have replays, right? Didn't they back on MTV? Or is that when they were on Spike?
I don't
It was-
remember. I mean,
it was
they've
time
always
change.
been all over the place. I don't know.
They have. They have always. Still are.
Yeah, no.
Um,
Where are they? Paramount now? No, that's yeah,
So we're at
Paramount.
Paramount. They're on some app right now.
yeah, Paramount
Yeah.
Plus. I think. Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, I was gonna
Well-
ask you this before we let you go. Is your teammate gonna win his belt back here soon?
So you know what my words to Stipe were on Saturday? As I said, Stipe, because I was gonna go in July, and I go to a year from my retirement, and I would love to go and support and be there, like old times. And the UFC that talked about bringing me out for some stuff. But then it's being pushed back. But I said to Stipe, he goes, yeah, well, they're probably pushing the fight back now. And he said, Stipe, when you put your mind strictly to a game plan, you have spoiled their party. You have beaten people that you lost to and you went back and beat. But when Stipe puts his mind to it and really truly follows the game plan, and those guys at Strong Style are insanely intelligent. Stipe sticks to a game plan against John Jones and protects his chin. Stipe gets his belt back and he retires. And I think that it's really unfair that people are counting him out. And, hey, that's belief land for you, right?
Hell
I
yeah.
also feel like that guy's been treated pretty unfair by the promotion, but that's just me coming from.
No,
I don't know.
you are not wrong. Do you know when I fought Misha Tate back when I was at 135, they brought Stipe in and they told Stipe that he couldn't fight for the title next because he wasn't popular enough yet and that he didn't speak well enough.
Does it speak? Okay, some people are mumblers. It happens, all right? I know what he's saying.
And then if you know what he's saying, if you know Stipe, you know what he's saying.
Yeah.
I never
He's got
once
that
been the
Cleveland
voice.
mumble to him that a lot of guys have, dude. We love. Like I said, I was there for the 203, as you said, spoiling of Alistair.
Yeah.
I've been behind. We've all been behind him, and this podcast has been such a Stipe Homer heavy show that it frustrates us, man, because he's the only person I say that can let his fists do the talking, because I don't care what he has to say. He puts on some of the best fights I've ever seen, and you guys at Strong Style have one of my favorite kind of just that mentality.
Yeah, it shows through.
And I appreciate you guys, because there is that we're gonna fuck you up no matter what's gonna happen, and I love that. And Dana needs to freaking realize that.
Well,
sorry, I got mad.
No, it's okay. What I want to remind everybody, and even your listeners and with you, Dana no longer controls all of those things. That, there's new owners in the mix and there's a new vision for the UFC. And I think that, ultimately the older years are now beyond that. We're going to see the fight world is not going to be in its golden years. Are you guys wrestling fans? We're not going to see the WWF, right? We're not going to see the old, we're not going to see some of the best times, some of the best fighters, some of the best promotions. We might not see some of them for some time, and it might be a while before we see them again, but the industry has developed, it has grown, it is now a superpower, in the sense of the business owners that own it. Let's just hope the model doesn't get changed too much,
Exactly.
Right. If it ain't broke, but I don't think it is broke, so hopefully they don't change too much.
Jessica, we do appreciate you taking time out for us to be here. We really do. And
you guys ever like to come up to Strong Style, let Julian get you in contact with me. And if you guys ever want to come up, and I'll introduce you to Steve Bay, and maybe we can make a small connection there, but you guys are always invited. And
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate
please
it.
come up if you get a chance, and you'll get to see maybe a day in of what some of us do behind the scenes.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. And maybe I can. I'd also like to see you up at Revolution. I know it's a different Revolution fight.
I love those guys. Yeah, my friend Justin owns that wrestling ring in there.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I know. I've known George Comer for years.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Tim. So yeah, have you come and teach the ladies would be awesome.
I'd love that, man. Like, I always tell those guys, for locally, it doesn't buy me some food or bring me some candy. You know what I mean? Like, I want to give that knowledge.
Oh, I could definitely make that happen. But we appreciate it, Jessica. Thank you. Make sure to go to jessicai.com. And also, this is the first time we've ever said this on the podcast. Go to her OnlyFans, goddammit.
Yay!
Go to her OnlyFans.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
No problem, Jessica.
I really do.
Have a great day, and we'll have you
so
on
much.
soon again.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. That was
Well,
awesome.
she was great.
She was great. Jessica I on the show. That was. I thought I wasn't. To full disclosure, I literally woke up 10 minutes before the interview. Had that. I think it's 5:50 kind of vibe, and
That's
it's
why
actually
I thought
6:50.
I did finally sign